You know, what has not changed is the credibility of the communicator. You compromise on that and see how, despite the best of technologies, you cannot make any changes. It won't be effective at all if the communicator is not credible. The communicator has to be credible. There was no television during Gandhiji's time. No television. There was no social media during Gandhiji's time. Once only in his lifetime he addressed from the All India Radio, which we today also celebrate as the National Broadcasting Day. He was against cinema. They say that he watched Raja Harishchandra. There are many versions of that story, whether he actually watched it or not. But he had an antipathy towards cinema. Though it's an irony that there are so many movies which have been made after him. And people are doing PhDs in Gandhian cinema. Now, Gandhiji, recently now we are celebrating Amritotsav, India at 75, the 75th anniversary of India's independence. And the Prime Minister exhorted us to celebrate it. The national celebrations started from the day Gandhiji undertook the Dandi Yatra. With one fist of salt, he shook the British Empire. He said that we can produce our own salt, we will not pay you tax. And this was a message of civil disobedience, and yet it was among the most non-violent protests ever. And it shook the entire nation. Everybody was talking about that. It was the turning point in the history of India's freedom struggle. Why? One call by him, one fast, he will sit on a fast and the entire country would come to a grinding halt. Violence in Noakhali would come to a grinding halt. Because people believed in him. People believed in what he said. That is the credibility of the communicator. How many of these television channels, how many of these digital media people believe? They switch channels. They say they are biased. They are one-sided. What is the biggest concern for me as a media person, as a media educator, is the trust deficit between the media and its consumer. There is no trust left. You think that everything is a narrative that is being created. And trust is gone. You start doubting the intent. When you read something, first the question that used to come to my mind when I used to read the veterans in my newspapers, what has this gentleman written? Today what comes to your mind is, why has this gentleman written like this? You are questioning the motive today. Why has he written like this? Surely there must be some pressure. Surely he must be catering to some interest. Because after Radia tapes, you think that topmost editors can write to oblige people? People in power. So what is important today is that there is a plethora. The floodgates of fake content have opened and people are looking for reliable, credible information. That is the biggest challenge today. Can you? The other day, somebody called up my office and demanded a huge advertisement. I don't want to take the name of the newspaper. They said a special supplement is coming, we want this huge advertisement. I said sorry, we don't have that kind of budget to cater to special supplements. The next line was, we have many stories about your university. I said, please do your duty. Go ahead with your stories. Please publish them. Let me also come to know what is happening in my university without my knowledge. But don't give me these blackmailing threats. And after that I never heard from them and nothing was published also. This is what they have resorted to. What technology are we talking about? What is the ethics? So my third question is, while everything has changed, can you change ethics? Can you change ethics? Has it changed? If so, have people started believing in it? Why is it that in the United States of America, which is known for single parents, which is known for people leading a comparatively independent lives, why is it that in the presidential elections, the family values held by the president is very important? He moves around with his family. He shows what kind of a great family man he is. It means that while in the society there may be these things, but people want to see the ideal person, their aspirations to reflect in the highest office of the land. So while there may be ethical compromises, but the fact remains that every reader, every viewer, every listener wants to listen to independent, fair, balanced, want to see that content. That's a reality. So can you compromise on ethics? No, you cannot. So it has not changed. Gandhiji in his newspapers never ever took a single advertisement. Now I am not at all saying that that today papers should not take or channels should not take. They will sink. But what I wanted to say is that he always held that the moment you start taking money, you are obliged to them. When you become dependent on them. With a subscriber base of 30% and 70% of revenue coming from advertisements, what kind of independence can I expect from my traditional media? what kind of impartiality can I expect from them? Gandhiji realized it long time back that I am not going to compromise on this. Today isn't crowdfunding a reality. You have platforms which are coming up, which are being, because people have realized that if I can pay 380 rupees for a packet of popcorn in a multiplex, I am ready to pay few rupees for independent media also. If I am ready to pay 180 rupees to get a Netflix connection on my mobile phone, I am ready to pay for independent news content also. That is because of that aspiration. That is the change. That people are now increasingly the media consumer who used to, in India, pay channels were never succeeded. It is the FTAs, the free-to-air channels, which succeeded like anything. You had to, and that is why all the television channels had to go in for massive losses. They have to pay huge carriage fees on all your Tata Sky, Dish and all that. Huge carriage fees. But FTAs, from the days of free to air, today each and every subscriber is willing to pay for OTT connections. Of course, we do our jugaad also, we take the Jio password from our padosi. That happens. We are Indians. You know, we are very accommodative. So when the padosi is not watching, the neighbor is not watching something on OTT, he will say, okay, you take it. So that happens. But even today, large subscriber base is there of OTT platforms. And today, biggest of films are being launched there. People have realized. People are willing to pay. Now that is important. So there is this huge change which we need to understand. Because I always found that in any discussion on change, we only talk about technological changes. We don't talk about we are not either looking at it, observing them, or we are ignoring them. So these things we need to understand. That today the consumer is, so this is perhaps the most, sometimes the most difficult situation give you the most beautiful opportunities. It is a demonetization which encouraged digital payments like anything. Even the Panwala started having a Paytm. And it is this lockdown, the COVID scenario, wherein the people realized that if I want good content, if I want to watch good movies, now Drishyam 2 has come. Mohanlal. Watch it on OTT platforms. You need to. People have realized it. That I cannot be just waiting for the cinema to come to the multiplex and then only I can watch. This is the big change. It's not about technology. It's about changing consumer behavior, which has happened. This is the change. Where the attitude has changed. We are looking at, Sonam said that I also need to, I don't know how much more time I have got, about 10 more minutes, Sonam?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So much to talk. So, you also talked about media education. How media education has changed and what are we talking about in media education. How has media education changed? Today we say that media entrepreneurship has to be an integral part of the curriculum. What we used to talk about, media management. It's no more media management. It is media entrepreneurship using the digital media. So in every classroom now we have started talking about how you can be great bloggers, how you can utilize YouTube, how you can utilize not just blogs, YouTube's, podcasts. Then of course we talk about comics, animation, virtual reality, augmented reality and everything. Technology. But believe me, entrepreneurship is not just a skill. Entrepreneurship is an attitude. The challenge before media educators is to ensure that you just don't impart the skill, but also you inculcate the spirit of entrepreneurship in your students. A media student is custom built to look for a job. He knows that at the end of the season the placement companies will come, I will get a placement. He has planned his life accordingly. Now you have to change that entire attitude, No. You start placements. Now that's a major shift, from a job seeker to a job provider. That is how media classroom is going to change. It's not using technology. YouTube, they know. They will teach you. What will you teach them? 6-7-year-old kids know how to use this mobile phone better than me. 10 times better than me. In fact, when I get into a problem, I, approach the kids only. Please advise how to go about it. So they will teach you. They can hack. I was talking to a colleague, she said that, my son is playing PUBG. So I said, PUBG, how can he play PUBG even now? PUBG was banned. He said, no, now he has downloaded the Korean version. Beat them if you can. So you ban it. They will get the Korean version. Then they will go to some other country. If you ban everything, they will get you the Burkina Faso version. So, the thing is that you can't beat them in technology. But what you need to inculcate in them is that right from their childhood, their parents everybody always told them you need to get a job. That is what I have to change. The second thing you need to change, very importantly, it is, they ask you a question. All along you have taught me to be a specialist. Today you are asking me to be a multitasker. Every media job advertisement says required multitaskers. We were told that every journalist, when I came into journalism, say over 3 decades back, I was told that you got to be a jack of all trades and a master of none. So we used to be jack of all trades. We knew little bit about everything. Everything, sports, politics, economics, films, everything. But we were never trained to become specialists. But then the trend changed. Then they said that you be a jack of all trades and master of at least one. So then everybody started specializing. And then we were told that this is not the time of multi-speciality. Now it is super speciality. Now we are looking at super specialization. So earlier, if you had a tooth pain, I am talking about my dad's time. So for a tooth pain also you will go to the general physician. After I was born, when I had a tooth pain, we started going to a dentist. But if today's kids have a tooth pain, they will go to a pediatric orthodontist. Super specialization. Now, it's a super specialization. So you have geriatric orthopedy, you name it, pediatric neurology, everything is there. Super specialization. So from a multi-speciality hospital, these days the boards say super speciality hospital. That is what they are looking at. In this time, can you afford not to be a specialist? Just because, so this multitasking is only related to the technological aspect. Let us be very clear. Let us not get confused. Multitasking is only with regard to technology. I should know how to write, I should know how to speak. Simultaneously, I should know how to edit my video, I should know how to disseminate instantly on Facebook, on Twitter. Multitasking. Simultaneously, I am doing 4 different things. But that is technology. Let's not confuse it with journalism. It is technology where you need multitasking, not in content. In content, you need to be a core specialist. Because today, people are looking for customized content. Today, they have the option. Today, they don't have to read the entire newspaper to read what has happened in sports. If I am interested in architecture, I will go to a website which will talk about architecture. If I am interested in cuisine, I will go to a website which will offer me cuisine. And again in cuisine, I will be looking for, continental, I will be looking for, Indian, North Indian, Mughlai, Chettinad, Udiya, you name it. Marwadi, Malwa. And people are looking for content because there is so much of diversity today. And that is the big change. There is a diversity of content. Huge. And this has not happened just post-COVID. It has been happening. The only thing is that COVID has accelerated the speed. Because people were bound within their houses and they had nothing else to do but look for content. And the last big change, because Sonam, I am sure, is looking at the clock also. So last big change is that we are now looking at hugely at user-generated content. We are no more dependent on the big production houses. We are no more dependent on the big production houses. Today, you and I are the content creators, the small children. And I will give the credit, we have banned it, that's a different thing. I will give credit to TikTok. In every village, we may differ with regard to the content, the quality of the content, the vulgarity of the content. All those things were there. But the fact that suddenly everybody felt that I can be the content creator. 1 million views, 2 million views, 10 million views. People in the small rural belt of this country, they would start getting millions of views. It's a different thing that they will do anything to get that view. But the fact is that they generated. They realized that I am no more a passive consumer of content. I am going to be an active creator of content. That is the big change that has come about. People were locked down in their homes, they had nowhere to go. And then they started doing everything possible. They started becoming big content creators. And today we are looking at massive online content generation, and user generated platforms are becoming hugely successful. They are thriving, in fact. TikTok has been replaced by every kind, Chingari and I don't know what all. Everything has come up. New platforms are coming up. And whichever platform gives user, and it's no more a one-way communication. It's no more a one-sided communication. The big media houses are no more engaging in communicating. They are engaging in conversations. They are conversing with the audience. That is the big change. So friends, I think that I have already spoken for about 40 minutes plus.
Yes.
And I thought that for a change, let me not speak about technology. I think we are saturated. Let us talk about content. What changes have come and what changes have not come. What has not changed? The interests of the people of the Eastern India in the jatras continue to be, they will watch the jatra now not on the ground, but they will watch on TV, they will watch it on digital media. Jatra continues to inspire. Ramlila continues to inspire. Storytelling continues to motivate. So content was, content is, and content will always remain the king, the queen, the prince, the princess. On that note, thank you so much.
Thank you, sir, for such insightful section. I never thought this is going to be not about technology. It was all in the mind that you will be talking about technology and how technological transformation is changing the media classroom. But I'm so glad that we did not talk about technology for a change, and we did talk about content, journalism, ethics, storytelling, specializing ourselves, and how technology can be enabler, how technology can help us bring in that things that the core values of journalism won't change, of course. A very, very insightful session, thoroughly enjoyed it. And I am creating a word cloud on the thing, so I will request all participants to put in their, one words or 20 character words on the word cloud link that is given. There are a few questions on the question answer panel, sir. I'll be asking them one by one. So there is Deepika Dhawan who is asking us, while ethics and credibility are independent of technology and technology is an enabler, do you think in the future technology will also drive ethics?
To some extent, yes. In terms of, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
If you use AI technology. AI is something that can moderate content to a great extent. Yes, I do believe. Certainly, yes. But then, please remember that ethics is very human. Ethics is very human. And AI will only tell you what you feed it. AI is not going to act on its own. It will go by your directions. So in AI ethics, say in a story, you are writing a story and you have been influenced by a certain factor. The AI can find out words of bias, but can AI detect your motive? So there is a limitation. So AI will be more mechanical in nature. So the human element is always important. You cannot rule it out. So no doubt about it that yes, as we progress, AI tells you, that you buy from this shop. If you go to, suppose you go to a, Connaught Place and go to a shop, they will tell you, AI will inform you immediately 5 more shops they will suggest to you. But can AI tell you whether the shopkeeper has cheated you or not? So AI has its limitations. So I believe that technology to a great extent, yes, but to this extent, I do not know, I'm not sure whether maybe in the realm of science fiction, yes. But I think that as of now, it will have to be a totally human managed affair.
Right, sir. Sir, there's another question by Saima Parvez, who's asking, if ethical content does not grab TRPs, but sensational news does, then what would be the middle way for a journalist to tick mark both the columns?
Well, I told you about Ramayana. I told you, I believe that there are films like Three Idiots. Now, Three Idiots came at a time when it was believed that you need an item number, an item song in the films. Only then a film can succeed. And that is when Three Idiots came. So many, biographies, biopics have come. And I'm sure that they were not sensational in the nature. Yes, some marketing they did sensational, like Padmavat and all that, they did some marketing gimmicks, yes. But otherwise the content, by and large, if you look at it, biopics and all these films, they were in the ethical realm, talking about stories, historic characters, and they became successful. A film like Tanaji was very successful, So, because we are talking about mass communication, I need to talk about films also. We are talking about not just news, but also entertainment. So, I don't think that sensationalism is the, if the thing is that, are you able to put across, why is it that today also there is a worldwide viewership for BBC? They are not known to sensationalize. I mean, you watch any discussion on BBC that's so refreshingly different. It gives you so much of information. So if sensationalism is the key word, so maybe people never tried, but yes, the middle path is always good. That's what Gautam Buddha taught us.
Yes, sir. So there's another question by Ram Kinkar Singh. He's a journalist and a PhD scholar with us. So he's asking, in recent days, farmer protests are going on and they highly trust on social media, not big media houses. What kind of trust deficit you are looking for? So, basically he's trying to ask that because all these farmer protests are being covered on social media rather than the big media houses. So is that the trust issue that we were talking about, that the media consumers do not trust the media outlets? So is
Well,
that
it's
shift
it's it's
something
it's
one of
it's
the
not that. I think that right from, if you remember the Anna movement in India, the anti-corruption movement, or the Tahrir Square, what had happened. Tahrir Square was the first instance of how social media can be an effective player in this. So there has been a shift, particularly the youth, particularly the intelligentsia among the youth have been shifting from the so-called mainstream media to the entire Nirbhaya protests was a social media movement. So it's not something new. And mainstream media, in fact, has lost out not just because of technology, but also the young people today find that they are no more in sync with what's happening at the ground. So if you are going to replace ground reporting with a useless studio discussion, an irrelevant studio discussion, so don't expect the people to be there, It's as simple as that. Journalism, the fundamental rule is to be, I've been a field journalist, from, from Kashmir to Afghanistan to South Africa, I have hit the ground. So I believe that, it is very important that, journalism is not journalism if it's not about ground reportage. And that is where I believe the social media is pouring in. You have a lot of digital activists, digital media which is moving into this space. And I want to, I don't want to listen to the intellectual part, the discussions and all that. I want to see what is happening at the ground. So I think that that's what they are, whether it is I told you, right from Anna movement to, now it is the ground zero, ground reporting. So again it is content, it's not technology. Because they are looking at content. So the content is ground reporting. Let these people go back to the ground. Let the television channels hit the ground. You will see suddenly people coming back. Because they have stopped going to the ground. That is the problem.
So now, if you permit, can I ask the question?
Yes, ma'am. Sure.
The thought process, very enriching session, sir. And sir, what struck my mind was that in research, there's a lot of time we pick up subjects which look at collective memories. For example, the Ramayana or Doordarshan. And what an excellent example of digging back into the history of the country. So, and you also mentioned about user-generated content. So what's happening today is that the researcher is also identifying topics which neither reflect collective memories, but may be, some of them may be focused on user-generated content. So would you think that media education should also relook at the research that we teach in our classrooms? Because user-generated content may have another, there could be a different kind of benchmarking, a different kind of clusters
Yes.
that one needs to research on.
Absolutely.
So,
But what are you going to research? You see, when I look at research, either I am looking at a PhD, that's what my idea of a research is, or I do a PDF. Research is about, I'll tell you this interesting story, just 1 minute I'll take. There is a locality in Delhi, since this program, most of the participants are from Delhi NCR. There's a place in Delhi called Sarai Julena. And I found digital content because I mean, it was a strange name, Sarai Julena. Sarai meant, an inn. But what is Julena? Then I went deep, a little deep. And I found that this Julena is named after a Portuguese lady who came to teach Portuguese at the Mughal court. Her name was Juliana. Now Juliana came to teach Portuguese because at that time the Portuguese had just arrived in India and they were slowly making inroads. So the Mughals were in power in Delhi, so they came to Delhi. And subsequently Juliana settled down in the vicinity of Delhi and set up an inn for Portuguese travelers, because she realized that in Delhi there are many sarais, but they catered to the local people. If Europeans came, they had a different lifestyle, they had different cuisine. So so she became an entrepreneur. So she started shop here and it was called Sarai Juliana. And over the years, it got corrupted because the locals did not know how to talk about Juliana, how to pronounce Juliana. So they started saying Julena, Julena, Julena. And that's the story of, can our boys and girls start doing these researches? So every research need not be a postdoctoral fellowship or a doctoral research. A research can be, it is this research attitude. Again, research is also an attitude. Research is also an attitude like entrepreneurship. Do you want to, what is this strange name? Let me find out. That should be the spirit, And there are many stories, how is it that in Daryaganj there is no Darya and in Paharganj there is no Pahad? They would make interesting stories and I'm sure people will read it.
Sure, sir. So there are few more questions.
Yes,
if
yes.
you permit, I may ask.
Yes.
So Kamya is asking, with time credibility is sinking, how can the credibility be enhanced in terms of content generation? Because people these days don't follow the Gandhian philosophy, they abide by the commercialization and commodification of culture. How can it be restored like the culture?
Can I get it again?
Yes, so basically she is asking about how credibility is sinking and people do not follow the philosophy and they are more into commercialization and commodification of culture. Can we restore the credibility
No,
which is lost?
people meaning those who are,
In terms of content generation.
yeah, the content, the mainstream, the so-called mainstream content generators are looking at commodification and stuff like that. I agree. But what does the reader want? What does the viewer want? For me, that is the $1 million question. Literally $1 million. He knows now where to pay his $1 million. He is not going to pay you anymore if you are going to give the pedestrian stuff. Sorry. He now wants good content. Do you know that there are now new platforms like Gaon Connection, Khabar Lehriya, Video Volunteers? These are coming up in the rural areas of the country. They don't want the so-called mainstream media anymore. They are happy with their local media. Community media is coming of age in this country. Community radios are prospering. Community newspapers are coming up. Community digital platforms are coming up. One of the most popular community radio stations across the world online is Radio Sharda, which is broadcast from Jammu and which caters to the Kashmiri diaspora. Because it talks about Kashmiri folk songs, folklore, about Kashmiri history. So people who are interested in that, they want to go back there. There's a renewed interest. In Kashmir Valley, people are taking interest in the in the centuries old Sharda script. Now these are the changes that are taking place. You know, in Pakistan, in Lahore, they have started looking at, they are digging deep into a gentleman who was a teacher in Takshashila by the name Chanakya. You know, they are digging deep. So people are looking at a different content. So if you are going to just give them the same stuff, Khela Hobe and all those stuff, it's not going to be there. The audience is not going to be there for a long time.
There's another question by Manoj sir, Manoj Raghuvanshi.
Yeah. Very dear friend, very dear old friend, yes.
Yes. So he's asking, today's big challenge is holding simultaneously offline and online mode classes. I experimented with the teleprompter practicals in the studio while some of the students present used their mobiles to add live videos with running commentary, showing the studio in continuous pan shots. It was greatly appreciated by the online students. So I think sir has...
Well, in fact, he has made an observation.
For a hybrid class.
Yeah, this is more of an observation. I totally agree with him, you know. I totally agree. I mean, my students have created more than 200 videos during this, you know, online classes, you know. More than 200 videos. And we have already started winning at several awards in the video festivals that are happening. So I think that students are doing exceptionally well. And believe me, they are not coming to the classrooms. And yet they are able to, you know. So undoubtedly, today you have got a younger breed which is, you know, very... My only concern, as I told you, is that the focus on technology is essential. But we have to make it abundantly clear to them that content is paramount. That's it. They will have to strike that delicate balance. You know, that's very important.
So the last question by Manju Yadav, she's asking, today most of the media houses are owned by corporates. In such a scenario, is it even possible to follow the path of true journalism?
Most of the journals are owned by?
Most of the media houses are owned by corporations, corporate houses. And in such a scenario, is it possible to follow the path of true journalism?
Well,
I think she
well, as I said that it is 70-30 ratio. So 70% they are getting their support from commercials and 30% from subscribers. So to that extent expect, you know, good journalism, 30%. And for the remaining 70% start paying for that 70% also. You will get it. You know, if you are paying for OTT platforms, why not? Why not instead of 3 rupees, why do I want my newspaper? Why can't I pay 20 rupees for my newspaper? I'm sure I can, you know. Even the probiotic milk small dabba comes for 10 rupees. Now these...
So we come to an end of this session. It was a very, very insightful session, very enriching. We are so glad that this opportunity to hear you, sir. The kind of questions that are coming, the word clouds that is created, I'm so glad that this went so well. All thanks to you, sir, for being and
it was a real pleasure.
guiding us through media education, media industry. Nothing has changed. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you. It was a real
Thank you,
pleasure.
sir. Thank you.
Thank you.